Welcome, everyone. We are back in the Leadership Lounge, where we just embark on a journey for better leadership. It is not about arrival. There is no destination. It is just about evolving to be able to better serve the people in pursuit of that shared vision. Today, we have a special edition. We are here with four masked lesbians, and we are going to share stories about their experiences in the leadership realm. To get us started, I'm going to just have them introduce themselves.
I'm Tiera Craig. I am the principal consultant at Tiera M. Craig Consulting. I am a certified leadership development professional.
Hey everybody, my name is Alicia. I am the Vice President and Director on Culture at the National LGBTQ Task Force, and I am also proud Black mask.
Hey, I'm Dr. Autumn Wilson. My pronouns are she, her. I am a Navy veteran, former federal government worker. I am now Director of Spiritual Care in a healthcare facility. Ordained her.
Hey everybody, Brielle Winslow-Majette. My pronouns are she, her. I'm actually back on the podcast and I'm happy to be here. I'm the interim executive director at Garden State Equality in New Jersey. I'm also a undergrad and graduate LGBTQIA policy professor at Rutgers.
We have a studio audience, y'all. I'm excited about it. The title for today is Before You Knew. Because in many cases, already as Black women, there's all sorts of assumptions that folks make when walk to leadership spaces. But now we have the privilege of hearing from masculine-of-center lesbians who may have experienced a different set of assumptions that were placed on them prior to anyone knowing. I know from my experience, there hasn't been many places where I've seen masculine-center lesbians in leadership whatsoever. To see four sitting here on the Leadership Lounge, so excited. So I want to start off with the first question. Anybody jump in when it wants to. Can you just share a story about a time where you were clear that you were being evaluated prior to anybody even knowing what you did, skills were?
So this isn't really before I got into leadership, but as a woman who has facial hair and is also masculine presenting, and when I step into spaces, I'm always suited up. At a point when I was looking for a job before I got to Garden State Equality, I had actually applied and gone on so many interviews. And the first time I would get the phone interview, you're amazing. Then I would get the Zoom interview, but they can only see up here, so you're great. And then when I would get in person, I would walk in and they would see my face, they would see my facial hair, and then they would see my breast and my feminine stature, and their whole posture would change. And that same handshake, this, the final interview is between me and one other person. It just changed the way that they looked at me. It was as if everything that I said afterwards, no matter what my credentials were, no matter what kind of conversations we had, didn't matter after that. And I know you asked what did I feel. I basically gave up on looking for jobs for a good year after that because I had gotten to 6, 7, 8 different final interviews to Garden State Equality because I was told by a mentor that sometimes you gotta be gay for pay before you could be Brielle for pay or Black mask for pay.
So split deployed. I think back for I was a military leader. I looked like I looked. My commitment to myself when I got out the donut for the military, I was going to be authentic calling myself. And so I looked how I looked. I had a store manager. I came in with, crisp slacks, button down shirt, who I am, who I almost was. That time I had my locks were shorter and they were fun. But I still looked like this. As soon as I walked to a new store, they would look at me like, how did we get here from any? And it wasn't because I was Black, because we have many Black.
What was your response in that moment? And see, already as Black women, we already had that extra. You got to do more. You have to achieve more in order to be seen as equal. So have any of the other panelists experienced a moment where it was blatant of how did you get here?
I'll say yes, and probably it is still embedded at me. I feel like I still practice show up 3 times more than everybody else. I have to work 3 times harder. Everybody else says they're going to go take a break. I'm the person who'll say, I'll stay. I'll be on call. Like, I'll handle all of it because I feel like that's what I still have to do. But I'll say for me, it is going into certain spaces and certain rooms where I'll say a lot of times it is, cisgender white men. Sometimes it's the female dynamic. It just depends. But what I've noticed is when I first started out, everybody was talking around me, not to me. So I would usually go with another,
coworker or even someone that I supervise and all that who may be look like a cisgender man and all of that. And everybody's directing all the questions and everything to them, not realizing like she's actually the boss that will make the final decision. And so a lot of times I would just sit there and be like, and so that was the hardest thing for me to try to combat is walking into some spaces and being like, so do you say something? But then I don't want to be the angry black mask woman who feels like I'm being disrespected. But at the same time, it's clear. No one's asking me the question. No one's asking me for my feedback. Everybody else around me is in there. And it was also like, how do you take that experience? Because this may be a company or group that we do want to work with. And how do I not let it affect my personal opinion? If you like, I feel disrespected, y'all automatically out. And it was a hard balance to strike a feeling like, since they didn't see anything, I don't see y'all. Next bidder, please. I mean, it took a lot of balance in leadership training to get there because it does seem personal that when you walk into the room, the way that we show up, you're not the person that they think is in charge of making that decision. Automatically assume it's automatically assumed that either the person that was with me, even one time it was my sister, and they got more respect. Like people like, would you like some water? Would you like this? And I'm like, now one person asked me, did I want some water? I rarely got asked my opinion, or when I spoke up, it was just like, oh, okay. So and so. So what do you think about our proposal? But you have to take, you're in the spaces, you're breaking ground. And that's one of the hardest things I'll say for all of us, is like breaking that ground is really, really hard. And it's hard now.
Yeah, I think the only thing that comes to mind really for me when I showed up to my first duty station, again, Navy veteran, I showed up to my first duty station in the coast of Japan and I cut all my hair off. And so, and as I cut it off, I had a low. I did it not to necessarily lean into presenting a certain way. I did it because as I was preparing to go to Japan, I leaned into somebody else's ignorance, a lack of understanding what hair supplies and things were there. And so I literally had this other Black female military officer to say to me, "Oh, like, you got natural hair, you got a lot of hair, you're gonna get there. They're not gonna have hair supply stuff for you." And so I remember showing up on my ship with this face and people saying, "Wow, we like Facebooked and Googled you. You look nothing like what we saw online." And so I remember from the South originally, like, well, how do I respond to this? Because if I say a certain thing, a certain look, then automatically it's gonna cancel me when I'm the highest ranking officer, female officer on the ship. And so, like, well, hey, images change every day. What you do with this is what you do with it. I love that. That was a good comeback. Yeah, because also knowing the role and the capacity upon which I was there, it wasn't. I didn't have the free, even though Don't Ask, Don't Tell had already gone away in my profession, I still didn't have the freedom to be on Front Street Pub in London. So it was, I don't have to respond to that.
See, I develop leaders and emotionally intelligent. So that is primarily the work that I do. And I typically say, our unexamined trauma leaks on people. So you think about that and you think about this extra dynamic that you're now having to navigate in these spaces on top of the heavy vision of people management. Because Alicia brought up, you just adopt, work harder, do more, train, stay later, and do all of that. A lot of the work that I'm doing is unpack the need to do that. And it feels counterintuitive because you like, sounds good, but I know I got to show up earlier and I got to stick. Has anyone on the panel down the bats and being able to be more authentic to themselves without having to kind of fit into the power dynamic of dominant culture norms or white supremacy culture?
That's hard question today.
I want to go. I want to know. And it may not be.
I think my grandmother helped me write the code. I remember uh, I retired from the military right before turning 40. Got my doctorate right before turning 40. And so turning 40 that year, I just kept leaning into like, man, I'm not 40, like I'm aunties. And so my grandmother was 80, born in the Bible Belt South, raised me and my siblings. She said to me, 40 is life change and you have to change something. You get to write how you want to live. And I hope you live, and it was almost like this. Go girl, go be brave. Go do what you want to do. Don't worry about what anybody else think or say. And so I feel like she gave me permission to write a narrative that works for me rather than what works for how my peers in ministry and how the rest of the world and even how my own family would see or view me, I could care less. So turning 40 just kind of helped me live into that. And people say, "Man, some days it's like, I just don't care." I don't. It's clear. I don't. And one of the things, again, I'm the director of spiritual care. My oldest associate, he's 67 and he's Catholic. And so majority of my staff are men. And so I model with them how they should treat me. I make it clear, don't let anything come to me that's out of anybody else's mouth as it pertains to something you all had said about me. We can handle conflict in my office. We can respect each other and disagree. But if it's coming from somewhere else, then I'm going to have a problem. But I model that with them. And so I feel like of the many jobs, military assignments I've had, I got the best set of workers, right? And that respect is there. And when I bring my family to work, nobody question us or anything.
So I was gonna say, first and foremost, this right here is breaking code. And if you came to what the L yesterday, Alicia, Tiera, and IP is breaking the code. And when I first became the deputy director and having equality at work, my first thing was I have power to create spaces for others. I've never seen a mass presenting woman be a keynote speaker. And I met Alicia and I said, you know what, Alicia, you're gonna come all the way from the DMV and be my keynote speaker. And I say that to say, you just hit something for me when you said that your grandma, like my grandma was an anesthesiologist. She's one of the first Black women anesthesiologists in the state of New Jersey. And I didn't understand how deep that was until she passed away and we went through some of her stuff. And I read in her binder, she had every letter that she wrote because there were people in the medical field who were nurses who 2, 3 steps below white women making more money. And she wrote the blueprint of this person makes this much money. I spoke to this doctor and it showed her advocacy steps for her to get the pay she deserved. And ever since I read that, I realized like, I'm not just doing this because me, this is legacy here. And it's like, it's unfortunate because as a Black woman alone, we are sometimes the first and we have to create those spaces. And that is a lot of weight. But on the flip side, I have had the privilege as a person who looks different for me to see the results of my impact and to know that when I TikTok, people would be in my DM saying, seeing you saved my life. And when you know that just more representation is making that kind of impact, there is nothing else driving me more than me knowing the legacy that I'm leaving for others, the way of choice. I wake up and I know that this is where I'm supposed to be because it is giving light and oxygen to someone else who feels like they don't have the space.
Do any of you have a moment or a story? Sometimes it's gradual. Like everybody gets to where they were like, you know what? I'm me. I'm about to show up as me.
So my job was fellow. So only senior lead, and I showed up like this with most of the ex-military officer, West Point grad, think they got it together. And I used to shrink myself with it because I'm like, you are the director of this and the executive director of that. And I said, but I'm here to make you that. I had to. And I got to a point that one of my session staff would make no session, but I'm like, you are here because you meet me and you're going to take this or you're not going to take this. But and from then on, showed up as myself. Energy that we have here is the energy that I gave at birth. And no matter where I walked in, and it helped me jubilate. Because after that, I was like, there was no love at performance. This is who I am, right? And from then on, I don't have to put them. There's no song with dance. This is it. I got what you need. Don't do this, but we're not. And I got respect.
And I want you to, if you don't mind, can you give examples and what was it, right? What were some things that you were able to exit and you showed up? And the reason why I asked that sometimes when folks are watching, they're like, oh, sure. Because we've been conditioned a certain way. So we think that's just the way it is, right? We think that even recognize. I also was a teacher, so I was teaching my kids to be assembly. That was one thing, like, exactly, just play the game. Yeah, teaching them the code switch because that's what works.
I can give one of the biggest examples, and it goes all the listen. I see it still do it all the time. We don't take credit for all the stuff that we did. If someone else says that they did it, or if they're talking about it and all of that, we do not stand up and do it because whatever it is that makes us break ourselves to do it, that literally, I see this show up between mass leadership, Black women leadership.
we will let everyone else take credit for our hard work and just say, it's okay. It's all right. For some reason, this needs to be humble and not say anything, knowing you stayed up 8 hours a day for the last week to get this project done, but you gonna let somebody else present it. You might have did all the work, but your name was the last one on the thing. And even though you go to see, you don't say anything. You just like, it's fine. Because at the end of the day, in our praying, they seen us, but they really didn't. And I think that's one of the biggest thing. And then if the question that you asked, what I was gonna say, for me, it's gonna sound so petty and small, y'all, but you gonna feel me when I said it. The day I decided my sweatsuit was professional enough to get on a plane and go to work, I was tired of being dressed a certain way. Why you gotta have a lipstick? And the day where I was so frustrated and so tired, I put on sweatsuit, I put on tennis shoes, still had my laptop bag and everything, and decided this is how I want to work. This is how I am going into the office, and it's not gonna diminish my leadership because I decided not to put on a full suit. And I had my headphones in, and I was walking through there, and it was just like, okay, your energy today is like something different. And it was just like, I just got tired of being performant. Oh, got tired of. I got tired of being performative and said there are certain places and spaces where I get, we have to do the there. But why am I putting so much pressure on myself to every single day be performative when I'm just once to my office with the same people that I supervise every single day? So y'all gonna get this sweatsuit today. It's 12 degrees outside. It's not the trench coat, the suit, the shoes that hurt. Like, it was just me coming in. And that was one of like the greatest things. And what's funny is when I started to do that, the way my staff got more comfortable in showing up casually. So I didn't realize I was setting a standard of something that I didn't even want. And they weren't comfortable because I wasn't clean.
I would say leaders always bottling, whether you realize it or how. Anybody have any other examples of shrink?
I was gonna say you didn't have to attack me, like, but I wanted to say I plus one everything that you just said is for me in a small org where my counterpart was a white cisgender male who literally built a brand around wearing a blue suit every day. First year of working felt like every day that I came to the office, I had to get a suit tie. Every day I had to come to a suit tie because people were looking at him and looking at me. And then it really took, like you said, Alicia, for me to be like, it was one day where I was sick and I was tired and I was like, and mind you, it's an hour drive. And I was like, hey, I'm not like wearing, I was like, I'm wearing my Nike Tech and I'm coming in. And, it's interesting because it's not just that, but I will say after that man became president, I realized that I had to do my due diligence everywhere. And so one of the things that I did, see, I'll take my hat off. I used to walk around with a man bun or a person bun all the time because I thought it was clean. And I was like, you know what? I don't see mass presenting women leaders with twists, braids, all that other stuff. Like, I don't see that. So for all of 2025, me being combative of white supremacy was for me to change my, and I was like, this just allows someone to feel like they can do the same thing.
Although, right, who we're censoring right now are masculine of center lesbians, everybody can identify with some sort of assumption being placed on them before having an opportunity to show who you are or having difficulty managing different personalities and things like that. So don't get lost in who we're speaking right about because there's lessons in all of it.
That's just being present makes other people have to check their insecurities, but because they don't know how, it bleeds out onto us. Everything that I do outside of that one period where I am enforcing a policy shows who I am. I am y'all know me, like I'm goofy, I make jokes, I'm very personable, I talk to my staff. I really care about the people that I work with. So now when we're talking about a policy, you know that I'm doing it either because the organization needs it, we need to save our organization, we need to make sure our staff are safe. And I've had to, I think Tiera mentioned this earlier, or it was actually Alicia, I've had to check myself and try not to take things personal and to remember that it's on them that they felt like I was aggressive because as a Black woman, you already see me as aggressive. You already think my tone is X, Y. So I've had to be like, you need to check your stuff. And instead of going home and being like, done it like this, or oh my God, I could have done this. It's more so like I know everything that I did was right, and that's all that. And I'm gonna continue to show up the same way that so it is hard. It's very hard, but sometimes they gotta check their stuff.
Putting it back on people to check them and also be mindful of the biases and things that they show up with. It is not my responsibility to heal what harmed you. It is your responsibility to invite me into the healing journey, but I'm not gonna invite myself in if you feel that something I said was aggressive or off. Where I am now is mind-boggling coming from the federal government. There's many different policies that my department doesn't have any policies written down. And so I said to my sisters, like, hey, we're going to have to create some operating procedures for our office. And here's the thing. You all want the PTO time. You all want the professional development day. So you need to have a stake into what we're creating, not just me drafting it, because I can easily draft something that I think should work for the department and not ask you, but because we all are in this department together, you have to have input. And so when we implement them, just know you're implementing and you're going to be expected to comply with the very thing you create. It's not just me. And so it's getting there by, but again, because I feel like I model how I want to be treated. If I show up off one day, I can say to them, hey, I'm off. And here's why. I believe in transparent leadership. It lets them know too, although you are the leader, you are impacted by things. Life is happening outside of here.
Yeah, that's that part. I'm not the robot. I mean, again, you show up to the Black woman every day. And if you are a Black Mexican woman, presenting woman with confidence, then it's a whole nother dynamic. And so when you have to some enforcement, you're like, okay, now you're the angry Black woman. Like, nope, it's consistency. So I think in the enforcement, you have to be consistent with everybody for there because if I give you a little bit and I give you a little bit, then you feel like I pissed you off. So somebody and that
I'll say for me, yes, everything that y'all said, literally 2025 champion in this role, whether it was with staff or people we work with, other nonprofit corporations, you name it, make the implicit explicit. Don't think folks understand or have the same level of whatever the policy is, the conversation or whatever it is. Probably that to me, they be like, I'm like, so I'm making the implicit explicit. I say, this meeting starts at 7:30. At 7:31, I'm closing the door. This is the mandatory meeting. So that means when you come knocking on my door at 7:31, you already know it's going to be a warning. Attached to I'm going to let you in at 7:32 after I take the list here. Like, so it's literally like implicit, explicit. Because what I've learned is sometimes when we want to play on your stuff, I'm going to use everything that I see in front of me right now to play on that and hoping I either pluck a nerve or create an alignment of some sort of way for you to where maybe you'll bid just a little. I just think it just has become a trending thing.
For anybody who, right, especially a masc-of-center that's like watching timid to me to leadership because automatically assume that they won't accept the MS piece or be able to not train. In my show, I like to leave folks with practical tips because some people like they gotta read 5 books, go to courses all year in order to change spiral, right? So what practical tip if someone instructed to stand up and own who they are in the space that they're in right now, right? The last part of that was if you want to just leave anybody with your last thought.
You really did. Masking is exhausting. It's exhausting and it's killing. And so leaning into their authentic self and putting that person on everything is what I would authenticity.
How would you help somebody do that, right? Because that's so important.
If someone's struggling with being the authentic self, I would think of affirmation statements that has helped them, live into that moment, write them out. It is not corny to put sticky notes around your bureau, in your office, on your computers. And I do that. I do that to my partner. Like, hey, you're dealing with the fool. Be yourself. Like, kid you not. And so write notes, those affirmations are reminders. You can be yourself. Who you are is beautiful. There's no harm in don't change it. But putting on a mask and trying to figure out a different mask the next day, it's exhausting.
Being transparent in places you trust as a leader, and especially as a mass presenting leader and as the neurodivergent mass presenting leader, sometimes, and what you said about people not knowing what they don't know, sometimes I have to do things or give a little so that it makes my life easier. So when you said like I show up and I tell you I'm tired, like sometimes I have to say, I said this to you earlier, I have ADHD, you gotta remind me, or tell me walking past you, send an email, text me because I will forget. And so that transparency of me, because a lot of times George said, we feel like we have to miss, but sometimes we don't realize that we're put expectation on ourselves rather than us being authentic about like who we are and what we need to drop. So I think that we have to kind of give a little to where it's safe and be transparent. So
I would have conversations with clear. I will give myself tip. And if any next fact you can't be true to you, so you are struggling, have that conversation with yourself. And not just you can sit here and share with yourself, but if you're looking yourself and having a conversation about what it is, something that you can do now, have real true conversation with yourself. So the practical tip first, find your things. I promise you, when I have to go sit on stage, if I have to go show up or in the morning, I know I gotta do something big or I'm feeling off. What is my theme song? And it could be an old song, it could be the song of the day. But most of the time, there's that one song. Like right now for me is Lucy Pearl, which like all about you with Snoop and all that. Oh, what? Like I get in there and I'm just like, I just change my energy and then that's how I will out. Sometimes it was a song feeling like the man when I walked, like literally when I had to go get on stage a minute ago, that's what was playing in my ear as we're walking me before I got on it to be like, this is what builds our time. Nobody has to know it's your theme song. If you imagine using it and it's Rihanna and Beyonce, that's your song in your head and in your ear, right? So that is the one uplifting thing. To yourself, what is your personal theme song? That's the press. My closing thing is find your tribe, but be open enough to lean into them. For me, what you see right here is often like we all met together at different events, at different engagement, and this just all came together to where we're always in the same spaces. And then it became now we're texting. It became day after wedding. It became like our friendships evolved naturally, and we became a source to rely on each other. Like even when we got here, and I hadn't seen you since Baltimore, it was like nothing. Like literally, it's like I seen, and so sometimes for mass people, because we get stuck in that and we don't want to talk and we don't want to be vulnerable, we can see a group of mass people sitting there, and you want to be over there, but you don't even want to say hi. And so it's finding your tribe and being open to it because we're not all the same. We're definitely different. Like I said, this came along authentic to just meeting, greeting different events. We didn't grow up together. This our professional adult. This how we got here. Lean into that space as you really want for yourself. But when you do it, understand you're going into a space where you're gonna have to be vulnerable if you want to get out of it. But that's not saying like find your tribe, find people who will vibe with you in a way that works for you. You do have to be vulnerable enough to let them in to do that. It's not so like how closing word is find your theme song and find me.
with your theme song though, remember that you are the expert of what it is. Like we have this imposter syndrome that like you got to this position for a reason. The people you're talking to, they don't know half the things that you know, but we feel the need to have to feel some kind of way. You are the expert of whatever it is you got here. So we have to remember the credentials and who we are. What second guess ourselves how we show up. So we have to show up in that expertise.
I left the military with some chronic conditions. So things had to be removed surgically. And I remember in my recovery, it was eye-opening because I was not taking time for myself. And so I take my day off now and I say to my staff, this may sound morbid. We work in a hospital. People are going to die. It is okay. I don't have to be one of them. You don't have to be one of them. And so, and it's back to that model piece. I model self-care and balance because I also want them to take it. And I'm raising two girls. And so it's already hard enough that, they're fierce Black girls growing up in this America. And so I have to model for them what it means to care for them too. And so that they can live to self-care moment. And so it's not just the spa. There are moments where I will not pick up my phone. I'll sit and binge watch my favorite show. I will also say to my partner and them girls, I need to go somewhere else in the house. I don't want to be touched. Don't mommy me. Don't baby me. If a football game is on, this is my neighbor alone. And I don't feel guilty for saying it.
So real. That is a lesson worth learning over and over again. Before we get out of here, can you please let us know where to find you all?
You can find me on Instagram, like Family Matters underscore Majet. That is my hashtag, and then or my name. Then, if not, find me on Garden State Equality Works web, and I would love to chat if anyone wants to learn some more.
I'm also on Instagram is underscore AMW Wilson on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook, and my name on Facebook is A Marie Joy. And
I am Alicia BW, and then also Tiera and I, Brielle, we do this thing called What the L for lesbians. And we also send our Black mass lesbians, and Tiera do all the information. All right, sorry, Tiera 1R underscore Craig on Instagram, and Let Any L on all platforms.
And just because we have the studio orders, can we show some love to our guests? Thank you so much for joining us today in the Leadership Lounge. Remember, there is no arrival, there is no destination. It is just a journey. Just be okay with coming. Until next time, we'll see you later.